Welcome back to the Upper Echelon Podcast where we keep it real and we keep it jiggy over here. Cause why? Cause we ain't never ever scared. Hit that like button on your way in. Make sure that you hit the notification bell and also make sure that you hit the like button as well. Make sure that you guys can go ahead and put a 1 in the chat for me if you can hear. If my audio is good, let me know by dropping a 1 in the chat, y'all. I'm just gonna do my shout outs in the meantime. Hopefully my audio is okay. Let's see. Okay. Drop a 1 in the chat if you guys can hear me. If not, let me know. Um, what's going on, Love Thy Nature, Robin Locks, Lolita, Sabi, Solid as a Rock. Every time I see that name, it made me want to say solid, solid as a rock. I don't know who sing that song, but I like that song. I don't know who sing it. Hey Stephanie Landry, I'm chosen. Hey Leela, what's going on, D Ham? Hey Dreamy Girl, Sweet Queen, Raquel, Candy Kisses, what's going on? Hey Miss Ronnie. Okay, good. Y'all can hear me. Lakeisha, let's see, who didn't I speak to? Hey Miss Season, what's going on, girly? Who else do we have? Okay, I think I said hi to everybody. What's going on, you guys? I really, I've been wanting to talk about this Karmelo Anthony story for quite some time. And the only reason that I haven't touched it is because I'm gonna have to just be completely transparent with you guys, is because I feel a little guilty about my feelings on the story. And the reason that I say I feel guilty about how I feel about the story is because we're so used to seeing injustice in America in the court systems and in the legal systems when it comes to young Black men and young Black women. So I just automatically wanted this situation to work out to where this was a complete injustice. And he's gonna get, I'm not gonna say get off, but things are gonna work in his favor, and it's gonna be shown that this was self-defense. I really wanted that for him. I do feel sorry for the family of the other young man, Metcalf. However, just because we see every day that young men are treated unfairly by the legal system here in America and in other countries, you just being Black and being a young Black man, you won't be treated. You're not going to be treated fair 9 times out of 10. So I was rooting for Karmelo. I'm not going to lie to you, but then I began to feel a bit guilty about my opinion on the topic. And the reason that I say that is because as I read more and as I look more into it, it is some evidence showing that, it may not have been a situation that really needed to happen. And the actions that Karmelo took possibly, and I'm not going to say anything is absolute just yet because, this they still have to go to trial and everything like that. But possibly that he did not have to do what he did. So that's an argument there. Okay, so we're gonna look into. I wanted to first of all for the people. Hey, Kim's reaction. What's going on, sis? Hey, Terry. Oh, thank you, Terry. Let me put that up. Or you know what? Let me see. Let me change my caption. Let's see. I hope. Okay, that should be good. If anybody would like to donate to my channel, my Cash App is pinned at the bottom of the screen. Totally optional. I understand people got bills to pay, child. If you can't, donate to my channel or whatever the case is, then your view is good enough. But please make sure that you like this video. When it comes to any topics that I talk about outside of, what I normally speak on, I want to make sure that I get enough likes on those videos as well. Okay. So let's get into the topic, you guys. I kind of explained where my guilt came from in that. Let me see if I missed any good comments. Let me go up. No? Okay, so Karmelo Anthony was indicted on the charge on the charge of first-degree unaliving. Now I'm going to be using some different words to substitute things because obviously I don't want to get dinged with anything on YouTube. So some words I'm going to use code words for, but y'all know that already. But before I get into it, y'all, and y'all know how I like to start my lives off. I really like to, for the people that really don't know about particular stories, I like to start off with just doing a history on the story and what it's about. Because oftentimes there's people in the audience that don't know. We can't assume that everybody knows what's going on. Okay. Even though this is a pretty big story, everybody doesn't know. But what I did want to talk about was the difference between an indictment and a charge, because we know that Karmelo was initially charged with first degree unaliving. Okay, but now he has been indicted. Now the difference between a charge and an indictment is that a charge is a formal accusation made by a prosecutor without the involvement of a grand jury. Now, an indictment is a formal accusation made by a grand jury after receiving the right amount, or I'm gonna say sufficient evidence presented by the prosecutor, right? So the prosecutor will present the evidence which will get the charge, okay? However, an indictment cannot happen until the prosecutor presents the proper amount of evidence to a grand jury. When the grand jury reviews that evidence, then if the evidence is sufficient, they are able to indict. So that's a big sign right there that this case is probably going to go a different way than a lot of people wanted it to, because he has now been indicted, meaning that there is enough evidence showing that it's possible that this was not a self-defense case. I want us to be very logical when we are, dissecting this case, because again, I'm not trying to speak for anybody except for myself. But what I want to say is I understand the climate that we live in when it comes to injustices in America in the legal system. So sometimes our judgment and our opinions and everything else can be clouded because we understand the climate that we live in today when it comes to injustices for Black Americans. So we have to learn, though, sometimes those two things need to be separated. And sometimes the story just needs to be looked at analytically without looking at the racial factor. So that's that's the approach that I'm taking to the story. Okay, so I'm glad that I said that then. So Raquel says, this is new to my ears. Ashford and Simpson is saying solid as a rock. Okay. Now I don't really know who Ashford and Simpson is, but I've heard that name before. So I'm gonna do some research on what other kind of music they made. So thank you. Kim's reaction show said, my brother was just speaking to me about this case yesterday. My brother isn't for Karmelo. He said he should have never pulled a weapon. See, now we get ready to get into it, because what I want to do, Kim, we're gonna look at the initial arrest report when the situation happened April 2nd of this year. So we're going to look at the initial arrest report. But for the people that are coming in that are unaware of what happened, I'm going to read a quick article. I don't feel like I need to pull the article up, but I'm going to do it anyway, just for viewership purposes. For the aesthetic of it, I'll pull it up. But I'm just going to go ahead and read it really quick. Karma Cutie said that's before your time, Upper. I see. Candy Kisser said, what changed? I thought he was found not guilty. So I'm getting ready to get into it. So I don't, unless some new developments happen, which I doubt. But no, I don't think he was found not guilty. I want to say maybe yesterday or day before yesterday. No. I want to say last week on Tuesday or Wednesday, I think is when the news came out that he was indicted. So no, he hasn't been to trial yet. So he hasn't been able to be found not guilty because they haven't had a trial for him yet. But let me go ahead and get into this for Raquel, because she's not familiar with the story. So let me read this article from the Daily Mail. Okay, so this was published June 25th. So Karmelo Anthony, who is the young African American one that I want to read, Daily Mail. Which one? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna switch. Hold on. I'm gonna switch it. You know what you may be thinking? I'm glad I just read that little part of the article. You know what you might be thinking about? Who was that? Candy Kisses. You may be thinking of, so he was released. He was released on a bond. Okay, so my audio going in and out, but if you see the what I just posted there at the bottom out, just drop a one when you can hear me again. Something of substance, like my audio be going in and out, but anytime it's some BS, my audio is clear as a whistle. I just don't understand. My audio and everything is just clear as a whistle. Anytime it's some BS, but when I want to do, some, okay, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. Y'all hear me? All right, so let me get into the article, y'all. It might this connection janky today. I don't know what's going on. It was clear as day when I was acting a fool on here the other day, okay? But now I want to be janky when I'm trying to act like I got some sense. Now let's get into this for Raquel. It may go in and out, so if it does, just bear with me. So Carmelo Anthony, the now 18-year-old accused of fatally poking. I told you I'm gonna use code words. Another team during an altercation at a Frisco ISD track meeting in early April was indicted for Okay, okay, I'm back, y'all. I had to get on, let me see. I had to get on a different device. Let me see if I can read my. Okay. Give me 1 second, y'all. Okay, I found it. Okay, y'all. Sorry about that. I had to get on a different device. I don't know what's wrong with my desktop. But what I'm gonna do, this is what I'm gonna do since I got kicked off. I'm going to read off my other screen while I stream here. I know I was thinking about the ball player. Okay, so I'm back, y'all. I'm back, y'all. Sorry about the interruption. So let me just start over. Let me start over. I think that my audio is going to be a lot better on this device, on my laptop, than it is on my desktop. I don't know what's going on with my desktop. But anyway, back to the story. So Anthony, who was seven, I read that twice, so I don't want to read it again. Or you know what? Matter of fact, I'm gonna start the article over since I was interrupted. Okay, y'all. Carmelo Anthony, now 18, accused of fatally poking another team during an altercation at a Fresno ISD track meet in early April, was indicted for unaliving by Collin County grand jury on Tuesday. Anthony, who was 17 at the time of the indictment, was arrested on April 2nd in connection with the poking unaliving of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf during a track meet at Kendall Stadium. The teen, who is facing a first-degree unaliving charge, has been on house arrest since being released on a reduced bond on April 14th. I want to say when his bond was reduced, I think that made people feel like, okay, this is going to be an in and out. You know what I mean? And it's going to be absolute that this was self-defense. And I kind of was feeling like that too. Well, if the judge reduced his bond, because I believe it was at 1 point something million dollars at first, and then it was reduced significantly. Also, he did have a GoFundMe, and I think that's what helped him make that bond. But then the article goes on to say, if convicted, Anthony could face a possible sentence of 5 to 9. Now that is such a broad. That's such a broad amount, like from 5 to 99 years. So Anthony could possibly face a sentence of 5 to 99 years, or life in prison. In the Texas criminal justice system, 17-year-olds are considered to be adults. Collin County District Attorney Greg Willis announced that his team worked to present evidence to the grand jury for weeks. We know this case has struck a deep nerve here in Collin County and beyond. That's understandable. When something like this happens at a school event, it shakes people to their core, Willis said in a statement. But the justice system works best when it moves with steadiness and with principle. That's what we're committed to do, and that's exactly what this case deserves. The article goes on to say Willis acknowledged Austin Metcalf's family following the formal incident, asking the community to keep them in their thoughts and, if you're willing, in your prayers as well. It goes on to say, I'm pleased that we are moving with the first degree unaliving indictment. It now goes into the court system. I fully believe that justice will be served for Austin Metcalf. I look forward to the forthcoming trial, but it will never bring back my son, says his father. Anthony's attorney, Mike Howard, released a video statement after the indictment saying, in part, Carmelo and his family are confident in the justice system and the people of Collin County to be fair and impartial. Of course, Carmelo looks forward to his day in court. Because it's only a trial that the full story can be, because it's only in a trial that a full story can be heard and that impartial justice can be done, Howard continued. We expect that when the full story is heard, the prosecution will not be able to rule out the reasonable doubt that Carmelo Anthony may have acted in self-defense. Just to throw in there, surveillance video has now been incorporated into this story. So they have not released the surveillance footage to the public, so we don't know exactly what was seen on the surveillance footage. But What we do know is that whatever was on that surveillance footage, it was enough to get an indictment. So that's something to think about. The article goes on to say the next step in the legal process will be assigning a trial judge who will then set a first appearance court date. That first appearance could be days, weeks, or months down the road. Now, keep in mind, from my understanding, Karmelo, excuse me if I'm hollering, it's because my laptop is a little further away from me on the stand. So I want to make sure that you guys can hear me. Keep in mind now, Karmelo was released from jail, and he's on house arrest at the moment, to my understanding. I did just read an article where it said that it's possible that Carmelo Anthony is going to it's possible because of the indictment that he could return back to jail to await trial. But I don't know. I don't see that happening either because he did pay the bond. Let me read these comments. There's usually no bond for unaliving in most cases. See, I think what it was is because it was such a complex situation where one party is saying it was self-defense, the other party is saying that it wasn't self-defense. They didn't have the evidence. They didn't have what they needed, and I think that's why they're saying that it's a possibility. Because where is it said on the Daily Mail? There's an article. Where is it on Daily Mail that says Carmelo Anthony could be sent back to jail after he was initially granted house arrest following an indictment for fatally poking a fellow high school athlete. The 18-year-old claimed self-defense after attacking and poking 17-year-old Austin Metcalf in Fresco, Texas during a track meet in April. His spokesman, Dominique Alexander, told the Daily Mail that Anthony may be returned to custody after a Collin County grand jury charged him with first-degree unaliving on Tuesday. So they're in talks. It looks like, well, that's what they're saying in the press and in the news anyway, that it's a possibility that he'll be sent back to jail. And then that goes on to say now that the indictment is in place, the case will be assigned to a district judge who could overturn a contract. Now, listen, remember, the judge lowered the bail to make it more feasible for him to be able, his family to be able to pay for him to return home. Now, it's saying here in this article that it's possible that that ruling can be overturned. It says now that the indictment is in place, the case will be assigned to a district judge who could overturn a controversial decision by a magistrate to reduce Anthony's bond from $1 million to $250,000. The article on the Daily Mail goes on to say, we don't know who the judge will be, Alexander said, but any judge can make any decision they want. It's entirely up to them. Anthony was 17 at the time of the incident and has since turned 18. He maintains he acted in self-defense during the altercation at the high school meet in an influenced Dallas suburb. However, he has yet to explain why he brought a weapon to a school-sanctioned event. That is exactly what Kim's reaction was saying. That's my question. There's so many questions that haven't been answered, and I guess those things will be answered when court during the trial. But people have their opinions already. And my thing is, I know as a blogger, you're supposed to present your opinion, whether it's popular, whether it's not popular. You're supposed to give what you think about a story. This particular case here is very difficult, in my opinion, to say what I think about this story. It's very difficult to take one side or the other. This young man, Karmelo, is saying that he didn't do it. But then you have another, or not that he didn't do it, but that it was self-defense. And then you have another party and witnesses that are saying that it's not self-defense. And so what I'm ready to see is, and I don't know if they'll ever release it to the public, but the footage that they recovered from the track meet, I think is really will be very detrimental to the case. Detrimental if it shows that it's not self-defense. Okay, because you can't lie about video footage. So what I want to do now is I'm gonna pull up the arrest record. Let's see. I had everything pulled up, but I got to do it over again because I had to. Let's see. And then you know what else? I tried to look up their GoFundMe and it's down, y'all. They took it down. I don't know if they're sending the funds somewhere else or if the family is able to collect donations through a different avenue. But I definitely went to search for the GoFundMe. Let's see. And it is down. Let's see. Reports. Give me 1 second, y'all. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, give me a minute. Karmelo. I had it pulled up, but I can't find the initial document that I had pulled up because, as y'all know, I had to start my class. Candy, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Let's see. I cannot find it. I'm not gonna worry about it. I have it. Well, let me see if I can. Let's see. Hold on, y'all. Bear with me. Okay, court record. Oh, okay, I found it. Let me see if this is big enough or if I can make it larger. Miss White said his money is not donated through GoFundMe. It's Give, Send, Go. Okay, well, they did have a GoFundMe account. Because I looked for it before and I found it. And I just went to go pull it up today and it didn't come up. So I think it was suspended or something. Because they had one. Let me see. Okay, so let's look over this arrest record because, well, the reason that I want to look over it with you guys is because I think that it gives really good detail of exactly what happened on that day. Oh, I got to sneeze. Hold on. Excuse me. Exactly what happened on that day. Let me see if I can change. Is that a new thing? Are you talking about Miss White's name? Let's see. Okay. Okay, so this is just the first page, and it's just showing his details, his name, address. It shows his height, weight, place of birth, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, marital status. It also shows his employer, when he became employed, which was, it says here, April 2nd. I don't know how accurate that would be. I think that's the date of the report, though. That's what I believe. So, anyway, it goes into his charges. First degree felony, of course, is unaliving. First degree unaliving. It goes into the narrative here. Adult male was taken into custody. Now, this is the official initial arrest report.
Adult male taken into custody following a poking called in on the property of the stadium. Initial narrative. On April 2nd, 2025 at 10:01 hours, Staley School Resource Officer E. Cortez heard over the radio dispatch call out a poking call at David Kunkendall Stadium. FPD call notes indicated that the athlete was, when I say poked, y'all know what poked means, right? Okay. The suspect was reported as being a black male wearing a gray hoodie and blue sweatpants. I immediately left my office. Now, this is what the responding officer is saying, guys, just in case anybody's lost. I immediately left my office and ran across the Staley Middle School parking lot towards southwest entrance into the stadium. As I entered the stadium, two high school age students informed me that the victim was on the north end of the stadium by the bleachers. Let's see. It's a little small, y'all. Hold on. Um, Under a Memorial High School tent. It says, I did not identify those students. Next, I proceeded towards the north end of the stadium visitor side on foot. As I got closer to the north end, I could see the Memorial High School tent with multiple individuals under the tent. Once I arrived onto the north side bleachers, an adult male who was on the track pointed out the suspect. I was not able to identify that witness. The individual that was pointed out to me was a black male wearing a gray hooded sweater and dark colored Nike pants. The suspect at this point was on the track on the north end. There was a chain link fence that separated me from the suspect. I gave the suspect instructions to keep his hands up in the air. During this time, the suspect said verbally out loud, I was protecting myself. Um, Okay, so I guess that's one. Let me see if I'm missing any comments. No. Ross says, look at his. I saw that for his. Excuse my sniffing, y'all. I don't know why I'm sneezing and sniffing. I saw that it said Ian, I believe. I don't know what that means. I think that means non-Hispanic, I believe. Um, so the officer says that when he got there, Karmelo is saying his story has never changed. She's always said that it was self-defense. He said that when he arrived at the scene, he told Karmelo to put his hands in the air, and Karmelo made sure to say, I was protecting myself. It should be noted that I had not questioned him about the incident when he made that comment. It's so he's trying to say, so the officer, I'm not what it looks like, okay? I'm just saying what it looks like. Is that the officer is trying to say, this is what he said. He said, I'm protecting myself. But I feel like he's also trying to kind of throw in there, I didn't even ask him that. And the reason I think he's doing that, you guys, is because a lot of times when people start defending themselves before they've even been accused of something, that's an indicator of guilt. So it seems to me like this officer already kind of feels like already kind of has an idea of what he thinks, okay, about what happened in this situation. But that's just my personal opinion and my observation. So then it goes on to say, I asked him if he had any weapons. He said no. I patted him down for weapons while we were walking along the fence, and I did not locate any on his person. I instructed the male to continue walking along the fence, which he complied, towards an area where there was an opening in the fence that led off the track. While walking him off the track, the suspect also said he put his hands on me. I then detained the suspect in handcuffs, handcuffed behind his back, and had him sit down on the ground. Officer A. Reese had arrived on the scene at that time. Okay, it goes on to say, I conducted another pat down of his person and then searched his person after he gave me consent. No weapons were located. While the suspect sat on the ground, I advised that I had the alleged suspect. The suspect then responds and says, I'm not alleged. I did it. Okay, so This is shoot. I wish I could have had this pulled up on my other. Um, oh, that's better. That's better. Okay. Let me see some comments really quick. So Miss White says it was a lot. I'm gonna get into the GoFundMe thing too, Miss White. Thank you for that super chat. Miss White said it was a lot of controversy behind the GoFundMe. It was being said that the family was using the funds for personal use. TMZ reported their investigation proved it to be a lie, and monies were still in place. Okay, and that was with GoFundMe, right? So maybe they removed it from GoFundMe just because it was so much, or maybe GoFundMe removed them because there was so much going on with it. Probably a whole lot of people reporting it and stuff like that. They say GoFundMe did not help with his charge. Hey, Stormy Black. So let me get back to where I left off at. So what I was getting ready to say was that's interesting because he said that so the police officer was on the walkie-talkie and he was telling dispatch, okay, I have the alleged suspect. So Karmelo hears this and says, I'm not alleged, I did it. To me, this does not, and see, this is what I'm saying is I know that he did it. However, regardless of how this thing turns out, regardless of what the surveillance footage ends up being able to show or what witnesses say, it seems that from the day that he was arrested up until now, he is genuinely believing that he had to do what he had to do. Okay. Now, some people are asking, why did he have to bring a weapon to a track meet in the first place? I guess that's something that we just have to guess until trial. That's something I don't know, and that's something that I wonder as well. Like, why was there animosity between the students before? Did he have a reason to feel like he needed to be armed or have a weapon? So I don't know. But I find that part to be very interesting in the report. He said, I'm not alleged, I did it. Okay. And so next, Officer Reese and I walked the suspect to patrol vehicle number 2412. This is Officer A. Reese's patrol vehicle, which was on the northeast gate of Kunkendall Stadium. As we were walking to the squad car, the suspect was emotional and said he put his hands on me, and I told him not to. I did not question the suspect about the incident while he was escorted to the patrol vehicle. I searched his person once again and had him sit in the back seat area driver's side of patrol vehicle 2412. While the suspect was in the back seat, I noticed fresh blood on his left middle finger. I verbally acknowledged that I saw the blood out loud so that it could be captured by my body-worn camera. It should also be noted that the suspect asked me, is he going to be okay, while he was in the back seat. Now, I think that all of these things that I'm reading are going to be incorporated in the trial. So they're definitely, from what I've seen in the past, for 9 times out, I'm not gonna say definitely, but 9 times out of 10, obviously they're gonna have the officer take the stand because he was the initial arresting officer, and he's gonna speak on what he saw. And I'm sure they're gonna have this document, and they're gonna go over it during trial and asking him exactly what Karmelo said, and just to ensure that it matches up with his arrest report. Now, it's a lot of things on this report, in my opinion, that makes it seem that we know Karmelo did it. I'm going to keep saying that because he says that he did it. So that is not in question. What's in question is, was he defending himself? Was he protecting himself? Okay. And there's a lot of things in this initial report that suggest that he truly believed that he was, because it says here that he not only said, I'm not alleged, I did do it. He was willing to give himself up. He was willing to tell on himself. And then what I find interesting is that even after he did it, he showed some empathy. He showed sympathy. He showed concern for Metcalf. even after he did what he did. Usually, when somebody's in a rage and their adrenaline is pumping and they just poked somebody and they just assaulted someone, you're not going to be hearing concern. You're not going to be hearing concern and for the party that you've just assaulted or just attacked. And for him to say, is he going? Ask the officer, is he going to be okay? It says a lot. Um, Let me look at some of these comments before I move on. I'm still confused on the indictment because they said it was based off of the video, but they also say the video wasn't reliable as it doesn't show much. So this is what I think. What I think is that, is it possible that, okay, so we know that the video was used in the indictment, but do we know if that's all that was used? Like, could some other evidence have been presented? Could the video may not, the surveillance footage may not have been, 100% or extremely strong evidence, but paired with witness statements and other things, the indictment was able to be approved by the grand jury. So I think that maybe even if the video, I think that was not the only thing that was considered by the grand jury to grant the indictment, is what I'm saying. So I think that the video played a part in it, but it could be possible that other things were considered, other aspects of the case were considered to grant the indictment and not just solely based on the surveillance video. So that's what I believe. Let's see. He didn't know that he had unalived him. Yeah, he didn't. I'm sure he probably thought, oh, he's just hurt. Raquel said only God knows what was going through him. It probably wasn't boasting. Yeah, I agree. Hey, you changed me. Candy Kisses says, unless the victim has a weapon as well, self-defense will not be a good defense. See, now that's so okay. So that's where I'm at with the Candy Kisses, because my thing is, if the boy was just, using his words, or even if he got up to make it seem like he was getting ready to assault you in some sort of way, hold on one second, Candy Kisses. Let me look something up really quick. Give me 1 second, Candy. I want to pull something up. I'm gonna pull this down just for a brief moment. Let me just check to see where I am so I don't forget. Okay, is he gonna be okay? I'm gonna pull that down, and I'm gonna pull this up because when it comes to self-defense laws, things vary so broadly state by state, that in some states they look at it like, yeah, so you can defend yourself, but it has to be with a reasonable amount of force. So if somebody if somebody is unarmed and, or whatever, and you have a firearm, would that still be considered the reasonable amount of self-defense? Well, in my opinion, technically, if you're attacking somebody, they don't, you cannot, I don't believe now, this is just what I think. I don't think that it would make sense that you can tell someone how to defend themselves. So if I think that you may hurt me with your hands, if I think that you may be physically stronger than me and there's no other way for me to defend myself or protect myself, and I have to use a pew pew to protect myself, then that's just what I have to do. So I don't know, but what I did want to pull up though really quick is the, let's see, what you would call knife rights in Texas. So it says here that Texas is widely regarded as one of the most permissive states in the United States when it comes to knife laws, offering residents and visitors considerable freedom to own and carry a wide variety of knives. However, while the laws are generally lenient, they do include important restrictions and nuances that are essential to understand for anyone wishing to exercise their knife rights responsibly and legally. The legal landscape in Texas regarding knives has evolved over time, most notably with the passage of House Bill 1935 in 2017, which significantly liberalized knife carry laws and set a clear standard for the state. Prior to 2017, Texas law included a patchwork of restrictions on certain types of knives, such as switchblades and bowie knives, and even imposed strict limits on the length and blades that could be carried. The reform of these laws removed many of these barriers, making it legal to own, purchase, and carry almost any type of knife, including switchblade, butterfly knife, dagger, throwing knives, etc. This change reflects Texas's commitment to individual freedoms and the rights of its citizens to carry tools for self-defense, utility, and recreation. Under current law, adults and minors alike are permitted to carry knives with blades of 5.5 inches or less in most public places, whether openly or concealed. This means that individuals can carry folding knives, utility knives, or even certain fixed blade knives as long as the blade does not exceed the length of the 5.5 inches. There are no state imposed limits on the number of knives a person may carry, nor are there any restrictions on the type of knife as long as the blade length is within the allowable range for unrestricted carry. However, the law draws a clear distinction when it comes to knives with blades longer than 5.5 inches, which are referred to as location restricted knives. Okay, so it goes on to say location restricted knives can be legally owned and carried by adults, but their possession in certain sensitive areas is prohibited. Um, the restriction locations include schools and educational institutions. Now, listen to this, you guys. So, now it goes on to say that in the state of Texas, you can basically carry a knife under the length of or 5.5 inches or less. Anything larger than 5.5 inches, it would be considered something called a location restricted knife. Okay, and also these knives that are larger than 5.5 inches that are considered location restricted, locations that they are restricted in would be schools and educational institutions. Now, let's keep that in mind. So I guess first of all, in the report, so far from what we read, the responding officer is saying that when he went to go apprehend Karmelo Anthony, Karmelo did not have a weapon on him at that time. So I guess it's possible that they found the weapon after the knife afterwards. So now we see that something that will, I'm sure, be incorporated in the trial. What size was the weapon that Karmelo was carrying? It is completely legal for him to carry that weapon if it is 5.5 inches or less to any setting. If it is larger, then it is location restricted. It goes on to say that minors under the age of 18 face additional restrictions. They are not allowed to carry location restricted knives unless they are under the direct supervision of a parent or guardian, or are participating in lawful hunting, fishing, or sporting activities. Supplying a location restricted knife to a minor without parental consent is a Class A misdemeanor, reflecting the state's intent to protect young people from potential harm. So it says that if, now we know that Karmelo was 17 at the time of the incident. However, we don't know the size of the weapon. So That will play a major factor. Let me read some of this, and I'm gonna get back to the arrest report. Raquel said, right, didn't them people, the family, put the money before a go, put up money before a go? I don't know. I don't know. Tyrese said, is it true that NBA YoungBoy paid his bond? I don't know how true that is, but I did hear that he did. I don't know. I can't verify it because I saw it on Facebook. So I don't know how true that is. Could be. It could be because he is from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I believe the NBA YoungBoy is from Baton Rouge. Rod says the indictment was put in play only because of the prosecutor. The indictment was put in play only because of the prosecutor. Well, okay, so really quick, let me say this. So I did do the difference between a charge and an indictment earlier on in the live. So let's remember that the only thing that a prosecutor can do is get a charge. Okay, the a charge can be gotten by the prosecutor, but in order for an indictment to be put in place, the prosecutor has to present those things to a grand jury, and a grand jury would then either approve or deny the indictment. So the indictment was approved by the grand jury. So in a way, you know what, Roz? In a way, that's you're right, because the grand jury got the evidence was still presented by the prosecutor. But the difference is that with the charge, you don't need a grand jury. You can just go along with what the prosecutor is charging at that time. But for this particular situation, it has been indicted, and the difference between that is that evidence has to be approved for an indictment. And oftentimes, when an indictment is set in place, it makes people think. Well, I ain't gonna even say make people think. It pretty much insinuates that there is some pretty strong evidence for that person to be indicted and for that charge or for that offense. Ross said he had his twin brother with him, plus he put his hands on him. Okay, and then I also stated that all of these things are possible. All of that is possible, which is why I haven't touched this story yet. I haven't touched this story yet because I want to see the facts. It is a fact that Karmelo said that that's what happened. But we're not going to know what happened until we get to trial and we see all the evidence presented. So the only thing we do know is that that's what Karmelo said. Now, there are conflicting reports from Karmelo and from the Metcalf family, from other witnesses at the scene. We have not seen the surveillance footage. So all of those things are very, very important when it comes to deciding what is true and what is not. All we know is what is said and what we may lean towards or choose to believe, but we don't know the facts just yet, in my opinion. What's going on, boss lady? Question, you changed me says question. They do know it wasn't premeditated, right? They don't know though. They don't know that it wasn't premeditated. The reason why he's been indicted for first degree unaliving is because and this is something maybe some people don't know. In order to get a charge or even I'm not going to say a charge, a conviction of first degree unaliving, it must be premeditated. So the question here, and I think this is the question that a lot of people are asking, is why did Karmelo feel like he needed to carry a knife with him? So if witnesses come forward, and I'm just going to give you an example. So that is, I'm sure that what they'll say, what the prosecution's argument is going to be. Well, why did he bring a knife to a track meet? He must have planned it. Well, there's certain things that they're going to have to find in order to convict him with first degree unaliving, to prove without a reasonable doubt or beyond a reasonable doubt that it was premeditated. Now, say for example, family members, friends, random witnesses come forward and they say, well, I know Karmelo and I've known him for this amount of time, and he always carries a knife. He you know, he's a woodsman, or he's into he just carries a knife all the time just in case he needs to defend himself, or I know this about him. They may even look at where the knife came from, where it was purchased, when it was purchased. They might look at his Google history. They're going to do a lot of things to see. They're going to look at his social media accounts. They're going to see, have Karmelo and this person, or has that person's friends or whatever, ever been into a disagreement or a conflict? Is there a reason that Karmelo would have wanted to do what he did to Metcalf before the actual altercation on that day? So they're going to have to look at a lot of different aspects to be able to prove that it was premeditated. The fact that he was indicted for first degree unaliving does say a lot, which is why I said, in order to get that indictment, I'm sure that they had to present more than just that video, the surveillance video. There had to be more evidence. So we'll see. Ross said Trayvon. Who is that? Trayvon didn't have a weapon. Are you talking about Trayvon Martin? Oh, well, that's a whole different case. That, in my opinion, that was a complete injustice. But that's a whole different case. Candy Kisses said yes. Karen Young said, I think this will be hard to prove self-defense. This young man had no weapon. It's sad he didn't even think before reacting. And again, I don't know that either. That's what they're saying. We're going to have to wait till court. They're saying he didn't have a weapon. That's what they say. I don't know. I saw, and I don't know, and I didn't actually want to present this, but I guess I'll just mention it. I saw, because there's so many fake stories out there, but I saw a article, and it was a picture of Metcalf's social media saying that he was taking pictures of weapons and saying that he was going to unalive somebody at the track meet. I don't know how true that is, and because I tried to find it and I couldn't, so it's possible it could have just been fake. But like I said, they're going to look at both of those young men's social medias, and they're going to do a lot of digging to see if this is something that was premeditated. And then also, you guys, again, like I said, I already know how the legal system is when it comes to Black men in America. But if we lived in a perfect world, in order to be not charged, but in order to be convicted of anything, I always say this, and see, I don't want to get too far off topic, but I always say this: you have to be able to prove your case beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's very, very hard to do in a lot of different cases. Which is why I said, for the Diddy case, for the P. Diddy trial, I do believe that he's going to walk. I do believe he's going to walk. I don't believe that he will be convicted of anything. I think that P. Diddy is going to walk off scot-free, because you cannot charge someone with something if you even have itty bitty bit of a doubt that he may be innocent. If you have that little bit of a doubt that he may be innocent, you cannot, or you are not supposed to, come to agreement that this person is guilty. Because again, it must be beyond a reasonable doubt. I cannot have a doubt in my mind that this person is innocent at all. And I think that there's a lot of doubts in this case. And of course, we have to wait till trial comes up to see if those doubts are going to be cleared up, if these things are going to be cleared up, because there's so many different aspects to this case to where I'm like, well, we don't know. Well, we don't know this and we don't know that. So we'll see. You Change Me said also, no one can tell you how you're feeling in that moment when you feel like you're being attacked. That's true. That's true too. That's true too. That's why I said, well, even if Metcalf didn't have a weapon, you can't tell someone how to defend themselves. If he felt like in that moment that he was going to be attacked, per his story, that he felt attacked, or that his life or that his safety was in danger, so his first thought was to pull out his knife to defend himself, I don't think that he should get in trouble for that. Maybe he felt like he couldn't fight him. Maybe he felt like the boy would hurt him. He's stronger than him. Who knows? So you can't tell someone how to defend themselves. And again, we just went over Texas it is legal to carry a knife of a certain size in Texas. It's concealed or not. So, and that's, so and it also says for protection. So we'll see. I'm gonna go back to the arrest record because I want to continue on to that. But Roz says, Karen, I think his attorney will prove it. Now a Texas jury is another thing. Yeah, Texas is a hell of a state. I would say Texas and Florida. Their court systems are crazy, especially when it comes to black people. You changed me, said no, he didn't, Roz. I think candy and soda. True. We're talking about Trayvon here, candy and soda. Well, see, you guys are talking about, let me say this. You guys are talking about Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin's case is nothing like this case. Trayvon Martin was walking down the street in a neighborhood, minding his business, leaving a candy store with an Arizona and some Skittles. And you had somebody sitting outside who accosted him or tried to approach him and was following him and unalived him. That is clearly not the same situation. Okay, yes, he got off for whatever reason. I got to go back and refresh my memory. But that's not the same thing that happened here. This is a situation with a 17-year-old child at a school event who's saying that he defended himself against someone who's attacking him. So we have to make sure that this person actually was attacking him, which is why the surveillance footage is needed. We have to have it. They have to review it. They have to see that he was defending himself. If, in a perfect world, if we defended ourselves and somebody ended up unalive and we just talked to the police and said, oops, it was an accident, I was defending myself. In a perfect world, they would say, okay, I believe you. Go home and just rest your mind and pray on it. But that's not how it works. You must prove that it was self-defense when somebody loses their life. It's just that's, you have to. You have to. It's unfortunate, especially if it really was self-defense. Now I got to go to trial. Now I got to be in jail. Now I got to post bond. It's a lot. But when somebody loses their life, that is a serious thing, very serious thing. A whole life is gone. So now this person is saying they defended themselves. So we have to ensure that that's the truth. Because do you know how many people unalive folks every day for malicious reasons and then turn around and say it was self-defense when it was not? It happens every day. So anybody can't just say, we can't just take everybody that comes to the forefront when somebody is unalived or loses their life and just say, oh, he's a black kid. So yeah, we'll just say, we don't want any controversy to get stirred up. So okay, we'll just let him off. It's not going to work that way. Does anyone know where he poked him? I'm going to finish reading the arrest record and see. I'm gonna get back to that. Let me scroll down. Would the track meet? See, that's another thing, Candy. Well, it said in this, it said in the thing, the article that I read, that the location restricted knives are restricted in schools, in educational institutions, government buildings, courthouses, correctional facilities, amusement parks, places of worship, hospitals, nursing homes, bars, restaurants, places with alcohol sales. I don't know. It may not be considered a school. However, educational institution is also listed on there. I think that due to the fact that it was a school event, that would be considered the same thing. It was a school event. So I believe that would probably be considered the same thing, because I don't think they're going to play semantics with that, because it's like, okay, well, no, it wasn't a school building. However, it was a school there at a school event. So, and also we don't know if it was what size the knife was or if it was location restricted. Miss White says it has been said that he was a known bully, and they were actually in the stands where he could have gotten seriously hurt or unalived if thrown or pushed down the stairs. I heard that same thing, Miss White. Um, Roz said yes. What were you saying about the soda? What were you saying about the soda? Um, Tissa said it was a knife. I thought it was a spike for his. It was a knife. I thought it was a spike from his cleats. Um, you changed me says Roz Trayvon didn't have a weapon. You changed me says at Roz Trayvon didn't have a weapon, just candy and soda. Oh, she was at. I was agreeing with you. Roz is correct, but they never heard the defense. Um, Okay, you changed. Okay, so let me get back to. I feel like I missed. Was it a knife or a cleat sharpener? I'm gonna go to the arrest record and see because when the let me go down. Let me see. I'm gonna pull this back up. When the officer got to the scene, he said that he couldn't find anything. That's kind of where I stopped at. So let's go back to the arrest report. Um, Ross said, and he had it in a bag, not in his pocket. That one said, I have heard conflicting stories, and I thought he had been bullied by the twins. He must have felt threatened by them and felt the need to protect himself. Okay, so let me give you all my opinion. So my opinion is, and the reason that I'm emphasizing opinion is because I wasn't there. So I didn't see it, and the only evidence that we have is what people are saying. So we can only use what we believe and what we think, but we cannot be 100% sure that what we believe or what we think or what we have rationalized in our heads is what actually happened. I want to be sure to make that clear before I say what I think happened, because I don't know what happened and I won't know what happened until trial. So what I think happened is I think that there has been a history of conflict between those boys and Karmelo. I do think that he brought that knife the to the, or you guys are saying cleat sharpener or whatever it was. He brought it to the track meet because he felt like he needed it. I don't think that anybody carries anything unless they feel like they need to. And the reason that I am rationalizing that I felt like he needed to, and that he didn't, that in my opinion, this is not something that he was doing out of wanting to hurt someone or being malicious, is because in the arrest record, it states that he was very concerned about Metcalf while he was being arrested. Now, I'm going to get to what the weapon was as well. And the reason, because if it was a cleat sharpener, then that would mean that he needed to have that there because it was a track meet. And that would also prove that it was not premeditated. So we're going to get back into I'm sorry if I'm missing comments, y'all. I'm kind of far up. I kind of want to read the rest of them though before I go back to. Let me try to read the rest of my comments. Where did I stop at? If I missed one of y'all, I'm sorry. Tissa said, I asked the same thing, Miss Seasons. Those spikes on those track cleats are sharp. My daughter was injured herself several times. Karen Young says the guy was sentenced to 12 and a half years. Roz said, yes, it was a lot of fake stuff going around. Miss Season says, so I wouldn't think it was premeditated if that was the case, if it was a cleat sharpener. Candy Kisses says circumstantial evidence. Karen Young says, meant to say two got away, the other was unalived. Tyrese said, free Diddy. I wouldn't say free Diddy but I do think that he's gonna get off. But I wouldn't go as far as to say free Diddy though. And the reason I say that is because I don't like P. Diddy, but I am rational enough to understand that it doesn't seem like they have solid evidence based on the charges. Um, I was talking as far as self-defense. Chosen. Hey, open book. Rod says you're right. That's why he was indicted. Protect your peace, and that's another thing, you guys. I'm gonna go back to the arrest report, but if he was indicted, I question that because, well, no, I don't. Let me. I'm gonna go back to the report. So I am my sister's keeper. Thank you for that super chat. She says Carmelo and I live in the same community. He will be all right. So you are from, what is it called? Frisco, Texas. Um, I'm chosen. Thank you for that 15-month membership. Hey Danny, what's going on? Um, Thank you for sharing. Yes, thank you, thank you. I didn't even put a goal up tonight. Candy Kisses says it's sweet. Hold on one second, guys, okay? Candy Kisses said it's school related. So I think this is I think I'm kind of late on the comments. Let me scroll down. Ross says he didn't know the twins. You changed me says I have seen people get indicted and they didn't even go to trial. Yes, I heard the same thing, Miss White, about he was a known bully. Okay, so let's get back to the arrest report. So we left off where the officer arrested Karmelo, and Karmelo said, "Is he going to be all right?" Asking, basically checking on Metcalf. And then it goes on to say, I then identified the suspect. He provided his name and date of birth verbally as Karmelo Anthony, black male with a date of birth of, and that's been redacted, which I ran through FPD dispatch. Officer Jay Hancock arrived on scene and remained with me and the suspect at this point. Karmelo was then checked via eSchool database for FISD students. I don't know what that means. To also confirm that's his school. Okay, the school district. To also confirm his identity. The identifying information he provided matched the individual I had in custody, Karmelo Anthony. Next, I was advised by Sergeant Holland to transport the subject to Frisco Police Department jail. Officer Hancock and I transported him to the FPD jail. Again, I did not question Karmelo about the incident. So he's basically making it clear that he never questioned him about the incident. Okay. Um, um, Upon arriving at Frisco jail, Karmelo was escorted in the intake area. FPD jail staff changed him out into jail attire. I remained with the jail staff the entire time that he was changed over. The clothes that Karmelo was wearing was placed in an FPD paper evidence bag. The clothes remained in my possession from this point on. Upon Karmelo being placed into the jail cell, I continued to keep possession of his clothes. I returned to my patrol. I could return to my control 2412 along with Officer Hancock, which was in the FPD Sally Port, and placed Carmelo's clothes in the back of the trunk area. I drove patrol vehicle 2412 out of the Sally Port and parked the squad car in the FPD patrol parking area. Carmelo's clothes remained in the trunk area of the vehicle 2412. FPD crime scene technician Kay Diller then took possession of Carmelo's clothes. I added my body worn camera to the case. I have no further information to report. Okay. And so then it goes on to where it says, let me look at my comments really quick before I go on to that. Okay, I'll go on to that in a minute. Let's see, what did I miss? What did I miss? Am I missing anything? Okay. Let me see. I'll go down. Okay, so you changed me, said, okay, I read that one already. Hey, Michelle, how are you? Welcome in. Terry says, upper stating, Jay Z, you lucky I'm not standing toe to toe with you. I'll beat your ass for worse than Solange. Michelle said, yes, it happened. It happened her in the DFW. Tyrese said, I don't know because when my son was 16 working at Foot Locker, getting off at 11/12 o'clock at night, I used to tell him to carry a knife because he was on the light rail at night and anything can happen. Well, we're in the middle of, I'm trying to figure out, was this a knife or was this a cleat sharpener? Hold on one second. Give me one second, y'all. Let's see. Hmm. I can't find anything anywhere that says what he used for the poking. I don't see anything. Yeah, I don't know. So what I'm gonna do is, hold on one second, you guys. Let me pull this up. Okay. Okay, so let me just read what this eyewitness statement said. I'm gonna put, so it says here, pull this up. It's an eyewitness statement. Let's see. Okay. So, First Memorial High School witness, a member of the Memorial High School, and this is on FoxNews.com. A member of the Memorial High School track team told police he was sitting under the Memorial High School pop up tent with the rest of his team. The victim and the suspect were sitting nearby. Anthony was from the Centennial High School and was sitting under the Memorial High School tent. The victim, who was Metcalf, had told Anthony he needed to move out from under their team's tent, and Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside and proceeded to yell to tell the victim, touch me and see what happens. No one really thought Anthony really had any weapons in his bag, and the victim proceeded to touch Anthony. And then Anthony told the victim to punch him and see what happens. A short time later, the victim grabbed Anthony to tell him to move, and Anthony pulled out what the witness recalled as a black knife and poked the victim once away. The witness did not know Anthony, but he knew he was a Centennial student. Now that was the first witness statement. Okay, so the first witness statement is saying that he had what appeared. You're tell you're saying to read his ethnicity, Ross, because I have it pulled up on a different screen. It says ethnicity and it has the letter N. It has the letter N. So I saw that earlier on. But what are you saying? Are you saying? Let me know what you're saying, because I don't want to assume what you're saying. Um, because I took that as meaning non-Hispanic, but it's I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know what that means. But I did take notice of that as well. The second Memorial High School witness. Police pulled the victim's twin brother and a second Memorial High School's track team member into the locker room to take their statements because it was raining heavily by that time. The officer who interviewed them noted that Hunter Metcalf was still hysterical and could not talk. I attempted to ask them both what happened. I could not really get anything out of Hunter, but the second, and that's the brother. Okay, Hunter is the brother. But the second witness stated he wanted to speak. I asked him what happened, and he stated they were all sitting on the bleachers under the Memorial High School tent when another male who he did not know walked over and sat under the tent. The witness then said the victim told this male that since he did not go to Memorial, he had to leave the tent. The victim and the male went back and forth, and then the victim stood up and pushed the male to get him out of the tent. The witness had said during that time of arguing, the male was reaching around in his bag that he had. It was at this time the male took out the knife and poked the victim and then left the scene, the report states. The arrest report also identified about 24 other student athletes from various Fresco ISD high schools and 4 coaches who said they witnessed the poking. So it sounds like both witnesses, the second Memorial High School witness and the first Memorial High School witness, pretty much have the same story for the most part. So it does say that from both witnesses that Metcalf was wanting Anthony to get out of the tent. Anthony was refusing to leave the tent as it was raining. And he approached him to what it seemed to be physically to remove him from the tent. So Anthony then says, if you touch me, you're going to see what happens, and began to reach down and dig around inside of his bag. And from what the witnesses say, they're not saying cleat sharpener or anything else. They're saying that it was a knife. However, what I do want to say is I don't know what a cleat sharpener looks like. If it looks similar to a knife, it is possible that it could have been a cleat sharpener and the witnesses thought it was a knife. So all of this stuff it definitely has to be verified. So, and I think that, whatever they come up with will play a huge part in whether or not they can prove whether or not it was premeditated. What's going on, corporate thugging? Yeah, that's what I think it means, Roz. I think it means non-Hispanic. Corporate said, thank God I will. Yeah, I said, girl, let me go live tonight. I probably want you to read the top. His ethnicity. I read that. Yes, okay, because I was mad about that. My mind went to Texas. Yeah, I don't think it means what you think it means. When I saw that, I did a double take too. And I was like, wait a minute, what? But I don't think that's what it means. I think that it is non-Hispanic. Tyrese said it's amazing how it was a lot of videos out here, but the actual incident video never played. Exactly. And then Mika said he should have never touched him. Now, I agree, he should have never touched him. But the question, and this is what was going to be asked in court. The question is, in order for Karmelo to get out of that situation, did he have to use deadly force? Because there's a such thing called deadly force. Like me fighting you, or if you push me and I push you back, that will be reasonable, a reasonable amount of force. But if you're punching me and you're completely like you are using your fists and I'm bleeding, or broke my nose, and if you're attacking me in that way, then yeah, I might need to do what I got to do. But from what, let's go back, because from what the witness statement is saying, now again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm thinking of about what they're going to ask and what they're going to say in court. And so, um, hold on. So, where is it? Okay, here it is. So, when the first witness says, um, no one, okay. Anthony grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside to proceed to tell the victim, touch me and see what happens. So he hadn't even touched him yet. Okay, so he hadn't even touched him yet. And it almost sounds from that witness statement that Karmelo's like in this. I don't. Please understand, when I'm saying stuff like this, it's not because I believe it. It's because I am thinking of what can be said in court. I'm not saying that I believe that this was what Karmelo was doing. I'm saying that these are things that can be brought about in court as an argument. So when he says that Anthony told, or not Anthony, that what's the other one? The victim, Metcalf. Metcalf is saying, I don't want you in this tent. You need to leave because this is not your high school's tent. And so the victim, Metcalf, tells him that he needs to move. And after that, now this is what the first witness is saying. And so after that, Karmelo picks up his bag and says, touch me and see what happens. And then begins to dig around in his bag. That sounds bad for the witness to say that, because that sounds like an invitation to have an altercation. I'm telling you, if I was the prosecutor, what I would make this look like. If a witness came on the stand and said, well, the victim said that he needed to get out of the tent. Karmelo said that he wasn't going to leave the tent. And so he gets up and says, after the verbal, whatever, he gets up and says, if you touch me, or not if, but touch me and see what happens. I would, as a prosecutor, say that he was inviting conflict, and that doesn't sound like self-defense. That's what I would say. Now, I don't know how they're going to play it, but I'm just saying that's what I would say. And then a witness goes on to say no one really thought Anthony really had any weapons in his bag, and the victim proceeded to touch Anthony. So now we know that the victim, Metcalf, did make initial contact with Anthony. He touched him. It doesn't say he slapped him. It doesn't say he punched him. It doesn't say he choked him. It doesn't say he grabbed his hair. It doesn't say he put him in a headlock. It says he touched him. Okay? Keep that in mind, y'all. I want y'all to keep an open mind about this. I started off the live by saying that I understand the climate that we live in. I understand that Black men are all the time denied justice in the court system. As a matter of fact, a man in Greensboro, North Carolina, was just released from prison after 25 years because it was discovered that he was innocent of unaliving someone. So it happens. I get that all the time, and it's not fair, but it's not always the case. So when we're looking at a situation, all I'm saying is please keep an open mind and try to, and it's damn near impossible to tell somebody to not look at race because you can't help it at this point. But I just want people to keep an open mind and let's be logical here. Okay? So he said, touch me and see what happens. The witness, the first witness anyway, says Anthony touched him. And then after he touched him, Karmelo then told the victim to punch him and see what happens. Now you told him to touch you and he did. Now you are commanding him to punch you and see what happens. Now, if I was a prosecutor, I would have a field day with that statement. I feel like any attorney worth $2 would have a field day with that. I'm just saying. Y'all will see when the trial starts. Anyway, it goes on to say a short time later, the victim grabbed Karmelo to tell him to move, and Anthony pulled out. Now, okay, so now we have 3 points of contact from what the first witness says. We have he touched him, didn't say where, but just says touched. Then it says that he grabbed him after Karmelo instructed him to punch him to see what would happen. Okay, so after that, the witness then not the witness, but the victim, Metcalf, then grabs Karmelo, and then Karmelo proceeds to pull out the black knife and do the poking to the victim once in the chest, and then he ran away. Okay, so let me go to the comments. Hold on. Mika facts. It's amazing. Ross says Mika facts. Tyree says it's amazing how it was a lot of video. I think I read that one already. Let me go down. You changed me. Said this is for adults and teenagers. Don't put your hands on anyone and don't expect anything not to happen. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I feel like, okay, so now I'm gonna step outside of the mind of if I was a prosecutor, and I'm gonna step back into my upper echelon mindset. So my upper echelon mindset says that he should have never put his damn hands on him, period, and the shit would have never happened. Right? So I'm gonna pretend like I'm not gonna think about this from the legal aspect, and I'm gonna think about it from I would even say an emotional standpoint or a common sense standpoint. He should have never touched him. We know that. But if it was that simple, he wouldn't be on house arrest. Right? But logically, we know that when we do something to somebody, we more times than 10, we're going to have a reaction. For every action, there is a reaction. So we know that. But it's not that simple, unfortunately, legal wise. Them twins was like two. I don't know why that would. I should know. My God, this is not a laughing matter. But Roz is. Look what Mika said. Mika said, "Really?" Roz and them twins too. They did look like some big old cornbread fed boys, though. Now I will agree with you on that, Roz. Them boys was big. They were. And Karmelo is. Let me look at it. Karmelo is small because I'm looking at his arrest report. I'm still laughing at Roz at how and I'm laughing at how Mika said that. But Karmelo is only 5'9" and 130 pounds. Now those other boys did look big. Let me see. I can't wait till they put the brother on the stand. Oh yeah. But I'm interested. I don't even. Well, I guess they would have to. Don't you think that? No, because they put family members on the stand all the time. I don't be trusting when family members go on the stand. Yeah, I don't trust what he gonna say. He gonna say whatever he think he needs to say to get his brother justice. In my opinion. So that's possible. The prosecution, I'm sure it would be smart for them to call him up there to testify. Karen said it's pretty much he invited confrontation. Um, that's so hard for me to say. It's hard for me to say that, but when I read what the witness says, that's what it sounds. I don't think he invited the confrontation because he was, because what I wouldn't go as far as to say that. Reason I wouldn't go as far as to say that only because he was minding his business. He was sitting under their tent. No, it was not the tent of his school. So I'm not sure why. Maybe it wasn't enough room under the tent where his school was, so he had to sit over there. But for it seems like, I won't say he invited it because it seems like the victim was being equally as confrontational. What I'll say is it seems like he did not listen. Just like we have to teach our kids and our youth that when you don't put your hands on somebody because you really don't know what to expect after that. But we also have to teach our youth when is it good or why it is good to walk away sometimes. Because sometimes when you don't walk away, you may have to use a certain amount of force that can end you up in a situation like this. It sounds to me like Karmelo had the opportunity to leave or to walk away. Should he have had to? No, because the victim didn't own the tent. But once he saw the boy was willing to put his hands on him, I bet you now, how much do you want to bet that Karmelo wish that he just was never even under that tent, or that he just would have just walked away from that fool? That's probably what he's thinking. And sometimes we got to swallow our pride and walk away sometimes, unfortunately. Now, the only thing that I feel like is going to be side-eyed, if that's a thing, during the trial is the fact that Karmelo did say, touch me. He did it. Punch me. But before you got a chance to do anything further, Karmelo poked him. That don't sound right. And so then when you go, the second witness also says, let's go down. Let's see. Second witness is a little different. So the second witness says that the victim and the victim being Metcalf and Karmelo went back and forth, and then Metcalf stood up and pushed the male to get him out of the tent. The witness has said during the time of arguing, the male was reaching around in the bag he had. It was at that time the male took out a knife and poked the victim and then left the scene. So the first witness says that Karmelo invited him to do these things. The second victim does not go so much into that detail. However, they do confirm that a push occurred, and then Karmelo pulled out a knife, and unfortunately, somebody lost their lives in that incident. Um, Again, I really, to be honest with you, I don't think that Karmelo did this because he wanted to unalive somebody on that day. I don't feel that. And I feel like he had, and this is just my opinion, okay? I feel like he had a great amount of sympathy and regret that that situation happened because he was not thinking of himself in that moment. For you to be getting arrested at 17 years old, if you were this malice, evil, murderous person, narcissistic, self-centered, psychopathic, whatever, you're going to be thinking about you. You're going to be thinking about, oh my God, I'm about to go to jail. I'm not going to see my family. You're not going to be worried about the victim. So the fact that he asked that police officer, the responding officer, upon his arrest, is he going to be okay? It really says a lot to me about Karmelo's character. And you guys, I don't want y'all to get it misconstrued, or anything like that when it comes to me in this story, because I actually empathize with Karmelo, and I wish that, I hope, and I know it sounds bad, And I know some people may not agree, but I hope that Karmelo is able to go home. I hope he's not convicted of these crimes. And the reason I say that I hope that he's not is because I believe that he made a mistake. I believe he made a mistake, and I believe that Metcalf made a mistake. The mistake that Metcalf made is that you cannot put your hands on someone and think that you can predict how they're going to react to you, or think that they're going to react to you in the same way that you treated them. You pushed him. He may not have wanted to push you. Your push may have seemed like it was just a push, but to him, it may have scared him to death. So he learned a lesson. Unfortunately, it was a fatal lesson. Karmelo also learned a lesson on that day because he learned that sometimes in a situation like that, you gotta get rid of your pride. Is it right for somebody to put their hands on you? No. But if you're ever in a situation where somebody puts their hand on you and you feel like you can't defend yourself unless you use deadly force, then it may be a better idea to just walk away if you can. Now, if you cannot escape that situation, then of course use whatever force that you have to use. But if you have a way of escape to where you don't have to use deadly force, then don't use it and leave. Don't try to fix your pride or any of that. Just leave. But I think that Karmelo deserves a second chance. And I think that he's a young black man. If any of our son was in a situation that any of our sons could have been in, so I sympathize with him. I sympathize with his mother because it's such an unfortunate situation, very unfortunate. Um, let's see. Y'all almost got emotional just then. If I wasn't no gangster, I almost got emotional just then because I have young boys, and just when you look at the story, it is a story that could happen to anybody. It really is. It really is. This could happen to anybody. You know. Let me see. What you say if the twin told him he was going to what would you say if the twin told him he was going to punch him? Well, I don't know. I mean, what do you mean if both of them were trying to attack him is what you're saying? Tyree said, I want to know where the video and all these kids had their always got their phones on record. Where is the video? Yeah, I want to see the video too. Okay, so let me read this again, Ross. I want to answer that for you. Ross said, what would you say if the twin told him he was going to punch him? I would say the same thing that I just said. I would say the same thing that I totally, understand why he did what he did. I do. I do. I understand why he used the force that, or I understand if these circumstances are accurate and are true, why he would have used the force that he used. Um, and I guess it would be considered a lot worse if he felt like he was being ganged up on by both brothers. Then yes, I could definitely see why he would have done what he did. Absolutely. Um, Sapphire said, "Nah, keep your hands to your dang on self." I just said that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Candy Kisses said, but even though I agree with that, I think sometimes we have a hard time with uh knowing and expressing that we know that to be true. However, what we're doing though is even though we know that, we are also keeping in mind that we don't live in a perfect world. And unfortunately, sometimes self defense can land you in jail. So even though we know that, and that would be wonderful in a perfect world, that we could just poke somebody or pew pew somebody when they push us and get away with it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Maybe it should. I don't know. Maybe that will teach people to stop putting their hands on other people. If it was legal to just use whatever amount of force that you wanted to use, like if you pinch me and I pull out a 22 caliber And I'm just saying, if it was that easy, I don't think that all of this controversy would be going on. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world, and it's not that easy. So, you know, we do have to look at what a reasonable amount of force is. We do. So that's just life. That's just a fact. That's just what we have to do. You know. Candy Kisses says, so the victim just waited around while he was searching for something in his bag after he put his hands on him. Oh no, the victim was definitely Caucasian. Why, Candy? We are having a serious conversation. Why? Um Candy Kisses said, I believe he shoved him, not grabbed. Yeah. I don't know what to believe at this point. Teresa Fraser said, oh, thank you, Teresa, for that membership. I appreciate you. Michelle said the twins were known bullies. I saw another comment like that. And I think I saw something like that online, that they were known to be bullies or something like that. But again, I don't know. We have to see in trial. And then it'd have to be witnesses and all of that to see if we can verify that. You know what I mean? But what I will say is that I do believe that Karmelo was in fear for his safety. Now those two witness statements, it's very possible that whoever those, they could have been downplaying Metcalf, the victim Metcalf's part in this. That could be possible. Okay, that could be possible. And it could be possible that Metcalf did a lot worse than what those victims are saying that he did. But we have to see, and we'll have to see the video footage as well, if they decide to show it. Michelle said, really? He may have been afraid. What did Michelle say again? Let me go. Oh, the known bullies. Yeah. And like I said, I did see those twins, and they are big. When I say big, they're bigger than Karmelo. Because Karmelo, it says, is 130 pounds and 5'9". So he may have felt intimidated in it. He may have even felt like, because he was on, and this is just me speculating, but he could have felt, because he was under another school's tent, that maybe he was going to get jumped or something like that. It could be possible that the other students were saying things, or maybe he got scared. You just never know, because he wasn't with his school. He didn't know those people or anything. Michelle said they lived in a rich neighborhood, and those WPs, we know what that means, already felt like he was guilty. Karen said, I agree, and Karmelo is too young to see around corners. Michelle said, Miss Season, yes, the twin brothers was known bullies. You Changed Me says, I know for a fact that he wished that day had never happened. Yeah. Teresa said, yes, so true. I understand. Candy Kisses says, I understand it's so heartbreaking for both parties. It is. Miss Season, what did I say wrong? I don't think she's saying you said anything wrong. I think that she was emphasizing on, or responding to, when you said they were known bullies. And I don't think she had heard that particular information. So I think she was just responding to it. Excuse me, y'all. Let me drink some water. Rod says, I'm saying that could have been the reason if he said, if you punch me. Okay. Oh, well, yeah. Corbin said, Michelle, he probably was scared of them boys. You Changed Me said, because at the end of the day, yes, Candy Kisses, because at the end of the day, he could have been one of our kids. Handy said, my bad. Power and presence. When tempers are flaring, you can't gauge your reaction or force. I agree with that. And unfortunately, the system is not designed for us colored people. I agree with that too. Excuse me, y'all. Okay, sorry you guys, I had to get some water. Hold on. Something went down the wrong way. Okay. Thank you, Teresa. They were bigger and very confident to say they were white and attacking a black kid. I agree with that. Well, yeah, and then we would have to have we would also have to have witnesses and people from the school and all type of stuff to show that they were known bullies. Because I saw that too, but I don't see where I don't see where that, who said it, or was that something that Karmelo was saying? Is it something that the kids at the schools are saying? Because what had to be, because Karmelo said that he didn't know them. So to say they're known bullies, well, they have to be known bullies at their school. So other witnesses from what was the school that he went to? From let me pull it up. Shoot, I forget the name of the school he went to, but whatever school that he went to, I guess the students there had to go ahead and say these kids, excuse me, y'all, these this boy was a bully, or his brothers, those twins are bullies. So I find that hard to believe. The reason I say that is because this is a situation where one of the students at the school lost their lives. 9 times out of 10, that school is going to rally around that child, that deceased child, and the family. So for the students at the school to come out and say that, unless these are, but now speaking negative tragedy, and we know that Karmelo did not know them. So for it to be said that they're known bullies, I'm just wondering who said they were known bullies. You see what I'm saying? Like, where did that information come from? I don't want to, I saw an interview with him. You're very welcome. Hey, Alexis. Sunflower said, upper and chat, blessings on blessings. Say, what's going on, Sunflower? Okay. Where did I leave off? You know what I wanted to do too? Let me see. Y'all, something went down the wrong pipe and I'm still trying to recover. Shoot. I'm like, what happened? Shoot. I had to hurry up and get me some water. I think my throat was just dry. I want to pull up where, because Karmelo did not Karmelo, but his family, I think they did another press conference after the indictment. So let me see something. I had it pulled up and I had to switch devices earlier in the live. So let me see if I can find it. Indictment. Show had it pulled up. Let me see if I can find it again. Is this it? Yeah. You know what? I think that I don't think that was the let me see if I can pull this down. I'm gonna find a video while this plays. I'm gonna look for the video from the press conference that the mom did, or that the parents did.
The fatally stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf in April during a track meet in Frisco was formally indicted by a grand jury today for murder. Fox 4's Amelia Jones live with details and response from the victim's father and attorney. Amelia.
Steve, the indictment is the natural next step in any criminal case, and it paves the way for the case to move closer to a potential trial. A Collin County grand jury indicted 18-year-old Karmelo Anthony with first-degree murder. He's accused of stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a Frisco track meet earlier this year. Anthony was 17 at the time of the stabbing, and he's being tried as an adult. The Collin County District Attorney's Office released a rare video statement about the indictment. Anthony's defense attorney also put out a video statement reiterating Anthony's claims that he acted in self-defense. The case has gained national attention and set off a social media firestorm. Much of what's swirling around online is misinformation. This could be one reason why both sides chose to record statements on such a procedural matter. I spoke with Russell Wilson, a former Dallas County prosecutor not involved in this case.
As media scrutiny increases, I think it increases the pressure, if you will, on the case. The core facts don't really change, but there's a greater magnifying glass, and so missteps are amplified, and that that applies for both sides.
I reached out to Austin Metcalf's father, Jeff Metcalf, about the news of the indictment. He sent me back the following statement: I am pleased that we are moving forward with the first-degree murder indictment. It now goes into the court system. I fully believe that justice will be served for Austin Metcalf. I look forward to the forthcoming trial, but it will never bring back my son. If convicted, Anthony faces life in prison. Coming up on Fox 4 News at 9, you'll hear directly from the Collin County DA's office and directly from Anthony's defense attorney. Plus, we'll share what
he faces life in prison. But the article that I read earlier, it says that he's facing between 5 to 99 years in prison, with a possibility of life in prison. So that is such a large range. That can mean anything. You know what I mean? Oh, he's facing, I hate when they say possibility life in prison. If you're giving somebody between 5 to 99 years or life in prison, hell, 99 years, you may as well just say life. He doesn't sound, the man, he didn't sound like he looked. So I'm not going to play the press conference tonight. That's all I'm going to do. I read the arrest record. We went over some of the videos. I'm gonna look at some more of your comments if you want to leave any. And I want to know what you guys think. Like, how do you think this case is gonna go? What's your prediction? And obviously a prediction, there is no wrong prediction because we don't know. So, but what is your prediction for this case? Like, do you feel that Karmelo is going to get off? Do you feel like it's going to be an open and shut case? Do you feel like he'll be found guilty? Is it possible that he may not be found guilty on first-degree unaliving charges, but he may be found guilty on manslaughter or something like that? You know what? I didn't know that Texas was. I did not know in Texas that a 17-year-old was considered an adult. I've never heard, and I've always thought that in all states that you're an adult at 18. I would not want to live in Texas as a black person. I'm sorry, or especially not a young black man, not as a black person, period. I would not want to live in Texas. What did Power President say? Oh, yeah, I read that one. Yeah. So I don't know if I read this out loud, but Power and Presence now said it's interesting because I live here and it's literally quiet on both sides. The county they are in is very racist. You know what? I personally believe that Karmelo is going to be found guilty. And the reason that I believe that he's not going to walk is not because I think that the crime, I can't say that it wasn't heinous because somebody did lose their life, but I'm not saying it's because it wasn't, we know somebody lost their life. But that's not the reason I think he'll be found guilty. I think he's going to be found guilty because unfortunately he's an African-American male in Texas. From what I know so far. Now, when we, start following the trial, and more evidence comes out that Karmelo was, because things come out in court. So if anything else comes out, then my mind may change, and I may say, "Oh, he's guilty because he really maliciously planned this." It really just depends. But from what I know for right now, after reading the arrest record and Karmelo's demeanor during his arrest and the things that he said to the officer, and the concern that he had for Metcalf after the altercation, and so on and so forth. It, for me, for right now, I don't believe it was purposely done. So do I think that means that he'll be found innocent? No, I don't. I think that he's going to be found guilty for first degree unaliving, unfortunately. And I think that it's going to have a lot to do with the color of his skin, unless they can present some stronger evidence. Again, we haven't seen the video. I feel his attorney will get him off. That's how it is in Texas. Raquel says, I think they are aiming to railroad that young brother. Yeah, that's sad, man. Michelle said they will have to move it out of Collin County to get a fair trial. Well, we know they can't do that. I really pray that he gets a fair trial. I pray that he gets a fair trial as well. I feel so sorry for him and his family. It's getting late, so I really can't play I really don't have time to play what his mother said at the press conference that took place, but she was so emotional and distraught, and I'm sure because I empathize with her as a mother of Black boys. That's not something that you want for your child. That's something that, no matter how old your child gets, you still look at them, you still see that baby that they used to be. So, it's unimaginable that, somebody that you raised or are raising would ever end up in a situation like this. And it's so unfortunate because as parents, we have so much hopes for our children's future. And just to turn to turn around and see that this is where they've ended up. It's so unfortunate. I could see if he was a criminal or he was just somebody out here going around, just being a horrible human being and breaking the law and just a thug or something, but he is not that. It seemed like he was a pretty decent young man. He was working. He was in school. He was headed towards graduation. He seemed like he had a pretty good head on his shoulders. And so it's just unfortunate that it really is. I don't even know what other word to use. In Trump County, a 17-year-old is considered an adult. Case and Allison, look him up. Case and out. Let me write that down. Hold on. Case and Allison. Yep, I sure will, Rise. Candy Kisses says, I think they already knew he was going to be indicted, but in the beginning of the case, the case was high profile. They didn't want to start a riot, so they waited until things calmed down. Yeah, I think it was definitely procedural. Like, yeah, I agree with that. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I had a good time going over this with you guys. Of course, it was a sad story, but as the case goes on, we'll continue to cover it and see what evidence is presented and see where it goes. I pray, and I know that some people may not like this, but I pray that he does get and I said this earlier on, I pray that this ends well for Karmelo. I really do. And see, some people will look at it like, well, why? Because he unalived someone. Well, he did, but we don't know what he was thinking, what he was feeling at the time. We don't know if he was scared, if he was being intimidated. We don't know, and we have to wait to see, the evidence in court. But from what I know right now, I feel very sorry for him, and I want him to get another chance at life. Because I feel like that's just such a waste of two lives. One person is done lost his life, and now this young man is only 17 years old, and he's facing the possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison. That is just, it's sad. It's sad. It really is. So I pray, yeah, there's the word for leniency for him, you know. So we'll see, you know. Let's keep our fingers crossed and let's pray for Karmelo. And I have sympathy for, and I feel so bad for the family that lost their son, because whether or not he pushed Karmelo or whatever the case is, you know, he shouldn't have lost his life. But like Mika said earlier in the live, you know, it's a valuable lesson, that the importance of just keeping our hands to ourselves and minding our business, you know. So yep. But thank you guys for tuning in. I had a good time talking to y'all. This was a really good build. And I really, you know, I like little intimate lives like this sometimes. Because, you know, normally when I'm all hyped up and we got a whole bunch of stuff going on, you got 300 people in here, 400, whatever. I don't need that all the time. Sometimes something small like this is okay. I'm willing to sacrifice not having all of that to talk about something worthwhile and to talk about something meaningful, and to really connect with you guys, the people that support me, you know, no matter what I talk about. So I appreciate you guys so much. I should be back. I hope, you know, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I don't think I'm gonna be back tomorrow, but I'll probably be back either Wednesday or Thursday. Not Thursday, probably Wednesday. And we're gonna speak on a different topic. Okay, so I'm gonna get back on my La On Your shit soon. I have been watching the stuff sheet. I'm just so tired of that damn girl. I'm so tired of that daggone girl. But I'm gonna get back on that topic as well. I have not faded away from that story at all. I've just been watching and really being selective with what I want to report on. You know, I'm just gonna, you know, I don't want to report on every time she scratches her behinds or picks her nose. I really don't care for her that much. Okay. But when it's something significant, I'm definitely going to report on it. So we'll be back to that, I'm sure. So I'll see you guys shortly. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the notification bell also before you leave, so that you can be notified of the next time that I either post content or the next time that I live stream. And also make sure, if you're in here and you're not subscribed, that you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys. I appreciate y'all, and see you soon. Peace.